The moment former President Donald Trump stepped into the Air Force mess hall, everything stopped. Forks hovered mid-air. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the kitchen staff, working behind the counter in white aprons and caps, froze in place. For a second, it was as if time itself had paused. Trump wasn't supposed to be there. There had been no official announcement. No security sweep earlier that morning. No rows of press cameras waiting to capture the moment. He walked in wearing a dark navy suit, tailored to perfection, and his signature red tie. His hair, as always, perfectly styled. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't waving. He didn't even seem to notice the dozens of young airmen now staring at him in disbelief. Behind him, 2 Secret Service agents trailed silently, scanning the room. Even they looked slightly puzzled, as if this visit wasn't part of their morning briefing. Then, just a few feet into the hall, Trump stopped walking. He saw something. Not a person, not a display, but a tray. One empty tray, sitting alone. At the end of the food line, a white plastic tray, napkin folded neatly, utensils in place, a cup upside down. But no food, no person. Trump's face changed. What had started as a stiff, formal expression softened into something else. Something people rarely saw from him. His brows lowered. His lips parted slightly. His eyes locked onto the tray like it held a secret only he understood. He stood there, frozen for several seconds, as everyone else in the room held their breath. And then he slowly walked toward it. Every step Trump took toward that tray echoed louder than any speech he had ever given. It was positioned near the start of the food line, where trays were stacked for incoming diners. But this one wasn't stacked. It was already set, as if someone had just stepped away. And yet no one claimed it. Trump stopped directly in front of it and asked the room, not loudly, but with firm clarity, "Whose tray is this?" No one answered at first. The soldiers looked at each other, unsure if they should speak. Finally, a young staff sergeant, maybe 23 or 24 years old, stood from a table nearby. He had been eating lunch with 2 others, but his uniform was crisp, his posture respectful. He spoke, voice quiet but steady. "That tray is for Airman First Class Jacob Rowe, sir. He was supposed to be here today." Trump nodded slowly. "Where is he now?" The sergeant looked down for a moment. The pause was long. Then he looked back up. "He didn't make it back, sir. We lost him last month during an operation overseas." The silence that followed wasn't just heavy. It was suffocating. Trump said nothing. The room said nothing. This tray wasn't just a tray. It was a tribute, a ritual of remembrance soldiers practiced more often than civilians ever knew. A meal left untouched. A seat left open. A quiet way to say, "We haven't forgotten." And now, the former president was standing in front of it. So why had Trump shown up to this base without warning? As it turned out, the story of Airman First Class Jacob Rowe had reached his desk weeks earlier. Jacob wasn't famous. He wasn't high-ranking. He was 20 years old, fresh out of basic training. An Air Force mechanic who had volunteered for a humanitarian assignment in the Middle East. That assignment went sideways when their convoy was ambushed. Reports said Jacob pushed 2 civilians out of harm's way before taking the hit himself.
No parade. No CNN headline.
Just a folded flag and a knock on a mother's door in a small town in Ohio. But someone on Trump's team had handed him Jacob's story, and according to sources close to him, Trump didn't just read it, he memorized it. He asked not to issue a press release. He didn't want cameras. No interview. Just a visit. Quiet. Direct. Real. He wanted to sit where Jacob once sat. To meet the young men and women who knew him. To pay respect in a way that didn't involve speeches or politics. After standing before the tray in silence, Trump asked if the airman would allow him to say a few words. No one objected. Every soldier stood at attention. Even those who had barely taken a bite of lunch now had their hands behind their backs, chins high, eyes forward. Trump took a breath and looked around the room. "I didn't come here today to campaign. I came here to listen. I came here because of Jacob." He paused, and the room stayed quiet. "I never met him, but after reading about what he did, I felt like I had to. I wanted to walk through this room, sit in this seat, stand by this tray, because Jacob Rowe represented everything good about this country. Then Trump pulled a folded envelope from his jacket pocket. "This is a letter I received from Jacob's mother," he said. "She told me I could share just a piece of it." He unfolded it slowly, looked down and read, "My son wasn't the loudest in the room, but he was the one who stayed behind to help clean it. He didn't do what he did for medals. He did it because someone had to." His last words to me before deploying were, "If anything happens, Mom, tell everyone I'm proud I wore this uniform." The mess hall was silent. You could hear breathing. You could hear hearts pounding. Even the toughest soldiers, those who'd seen combat, who'd buried friends, stood motionless. A few had tears forming in the corners of their eyes, blinking quickly to hold them back. Before leaving, Trump reached into his coat again. This time he pulled out something small, metallic, and gold. A presidential challenge coin. These are personal tokens, rare, meaningful, and typically reserved for moments of great honor. Trump stepped forward, knelt slightly, and gently placed the coin next to Jacob's untouched tray. "Let this stay here," he said. "Let it remind every person who walks into this room that real heroes don't wear capes. They wear boots and they sit at tables like this one." He turned and thanked every soldier individually who had served with Jacob. One by one, firm handshakes, some salutes, no cameras, no political talking points, just gratitude. And then, without a press conference, without a media blast, he quietly left the hall. But something stayed behind. Not just the coin,